Hi guys, Jill here, and I wanted to show you how I made this crazy birds card, and it's actually bird crazy, for my niece's birthday. And it has quite a few components to it, and I'm going to show you how I colored them and then just assembled the basic layers. I'm going to put a link below to the tutorial at Split Coast Stampers on how to do the side step card, and they also have a video. So let's get into the coloring. It's pretty basic, and I'll go over everything and talk about it while we're doing it. So I'm using the Bristol paper from Strathmore, and I'm coloring with the Kuretake Zig Clean Color Real Brush Markers, and I list the colors as we go. I'm using pretty much rainbow colors and really simple blending. You don't want to overwork this paper because it's not really a watercolor paper. I'm using the water brush, and this is a Kuretake water brush. I've had this in my stash for ages. It has a fine tip to it. Like I said, don't use a lot of water. And so when I'm blending the markers, I'm keeping the blend simple. Each bird has two colors on it, and I'm only showing once, but I'm using the yellow, green, and the orange on the beaks, and the light gray on the eyes. And so, like I said, I'm only showing that blend color one time. And then I'll list the blend for each bird below. And okay, so the stamp sets that I used are the Tim Holtz. They are the Bird Crazy, the Crazy Things, which is the accessories, and the Mini Crazy, Bird Crazy. And that one includes all of the accessories. So that's the 3 Tim Holtz stamp sets that I used. And then I also used the die cut sets that match all 3 of those. And of course you could cut all of these out, but I don't know how you'd really cut those little legs out and cut in between the legs. So the die cuts, really help. And obviously you could not cut between those and just have the paper there. So when I'm doing these, as you can see, I add the dark color, then the light color, do a little bit of blending, and then do the bulk of the blending with the water. And feel free to go outside the lines, set it aside to dry. If you need to do more blending, then come back in once it's dry. You can tell if you still need to let it dry more by touching the paper. If it's cold to the touch, then it's still wet. And let's see, what else did I want to talk to you about? Okay, so the other thing that I didn't mention was the fact that I stamped these images with my VersaFine Onyx Black ink pad. I love how that ink pad works for 2 reasons. One is it is immediately ready to be used for watercoloring, and 2, it really creates fine lines. It's not bulky. Some ink pads, you'll notice that they're great for watercoloring, but the lines that they stamp are really thick. And this stamp set has a lot of really, really delicate lines in it. And you want those to show up. And so you want something that is going to stamp all of those little thin lines. And that VersaFine will do that for you. I've had my VersaFine for years, and I mean years, like 10 to 15 years, and I've never had to re-ink it. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure they have a re-inker for that ink pad. Another thing that I'll show you at the end of the video, but you noticed at the beginning that the main bird, he's the one from the larger set. He is on the Action Wobble Springs, and I think those are really cool. I have an older set, and what's probably not a bad idea anyway is that when I put it down, you'll see that I add matte medium. Um, Again, I do that with pearls and rhinestones. I just never know how secure things are going to be, so I add matte medium. It's kind of like an extra layer of protection, I guess. So, you know, again, they were older and I knew they weren't sticking that well. So, and you can even tell by the packaging. I got those on clearance at Hobby Lobby, and I have a newer set of them, and I know they're in better packaging. The top and the bottom are labeled better, and so there's that. And the other thing that I wanted to point out is, I don't know if anyone's noticed, I'm sure other people have pointed out, that the crazy birds, the large birds and the small birds, they face different directions, and I thought that was kind of fun because you get that variance in the two different sets. So it's kind of fun that the large bird and the small bird were going different directions. So I did choose to leave all the coloring in just in case you were wondering how I got a different color, because the purple and the red don't blend together very well on this bird. I had to set it aside, let it dry, and come back to it. And so, you know, that's something good to know. And as always, you follow the artist drawn line for your darker colors, and you put in more on the darker spots and less where there's no lines. And so on this one, there was a lot of darker spots. And so it was just good to follow that. So we're coming near the end of it. I'm doing the presents. And then after this, I do the balloons. And again, the balloons are really simple. As with everything else, I just kept everything to 2 colors. The present, you know, I didn't add a lot of detail to it. I just kind of let it be very simple because there's so much going on this card that I didn't really have to do a lot to this present. As you can see, it's not very obvious that I didn't do a lot to the present. Kind of pick your battles with a card like this, because these birds are just so busy with all the colors that are going on, all the activity with all the different birds, that the balloons and the presents, they can be very simple. And that made it very easy to just put a few colors together. Okay, so another thing that I did is, after all of these pieces dried, I cut them all out with the die cutter, and we'll come to it being finished. Then I took my Memento dual tip marker in tuxedo black, and I outlined all of the edges. You could skip this step because the die cutting is so good, but I just wanted to add that extra detail so that everything looked perfectly cut. And it's up to you. Depends on who you're giving this card to. So we're going to come to the assembly portion. And like I said, I will give you the link over to Split Coast Stampers. But I did make a background for this, just using the technique where you put 3 colors of distress ink on a piece of paper and add splatter to it. I messed up my cutting, as you can obviously see here, but I did show you the cutting. I'm attaching all of the pieces together with my matte medium, and it dries very quickly. And here's where I put on the balloons. I had put them on pop dots on a different card. Don't do that behind the action wobble. It got caught. So just adhere them flat. His little hat will get caught. And I had laid everything out. And so that's how I knew exactly where everything should go, where each little bird would stand up the best. And I knew that from having already done this card. So I just glue each one down onto its appropriate step. And see, here's me showing you the action wobbles. And I have put a T for top on this one because it's not labeled like on the new ones. See? Not very sticky, so I decided to put the matte medium on. And that matte medium just grabs hold really fast. Okay, so there's that little guy. And he was really easy to stick there. And now we're just coming up on those last two little birds, and just make sure that nothing is going to get stuck in that center of the step. See, I make sure that there's clearance for the tail. Okay, so really at this point we're sticking down those last two birds, and you can see on the back all that black scribble. That's where I had outlined them with the tuxedo black, and I had traced onto the back of them. So there's my cat. That's that shadow. Okay, so I'm going to attach the last one here. So hopefully you're still with me. And here he goes. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any comments, please leave them below. Thanks for stopping by, and have a great day.